The track too tough to tame. Darlington Raceway in Florence, South Carolina, and Darlington County, South Carolina, is our next stop here on the KBueno Racing Network for Season 1 action of the KBRN Truck Series live from this famous 1.33 mile racetrack in South Carolina. And I'm so glad to bring this coverage to you tonight on October 6th, where Nate Polite will join me later on this evening as I'm Francisco Bacalhau, bringing you the coverage of what is surely going to be another ecstatic race. We've had so much good action in the opening couple of rounds in this series. We've had 8 races so far with 8 different winners, and it could be a possible ninth different winner already in this season, given just how competitive it has been up until this point. So much to talk about, so much to look forward to in terms of playoff talk as just tonight and next week remain before we have our top 10 drivers determining who makes the playoff standings. And here's a look at that schedule. You see, we've gone through the entire left side of the schedule graphic. Moving on, we had Pocono last week where we saw AJ Green capture the W in 3 overtime attempts, holding off the charge from Michael Walls late. And now we sit here at Darlington Raceway where we move on to Auto Club next week for the cut line race prior to our 5 race playoff, which begins at the Chicagoland Speedway later this month. So a lot to look forward to, a lot to talk about as the night progresses in terms of who gets into what kind of opportunities to talk about, which leads us into our general consensus look at our point system. So we look at the points here on your screen right now, and it kind of paints the whole picture, really, is that you look at Duncan Fall leading the standings. It's not that big of a points lead, but he's been one of the more consistent drivers from the entirety of the schedule. Got that win at the Knoxville Raceway. Justin Rott was able to recover nicely to get himself up into second, with Michael Walls, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, numerous other vehicles getting their way up in the standings. Fall, Rott, and Walls could lock themselves in and not have to worry about point standings from tonight's race, I believe, just by starting. So those three up there could be good. I think Jurgensmeyer, Schumacher, Benson, and Bauman, for that matter, and you could probably include Trevor Haley in the mix as far as drivers who, if they have a solid enough front, could possibly guarantee themselves on points. And a lot of it will be determined by how many people do show up to that regular season finale next week at the Auto Club Raceway. If you're Ethan Fonseca Moreno, last week was a great run, able to get a good amount of points, got themselves into the top 10 cut line. AJ Green's victory was huge over Craig Parks, Tony Kivet, and Mikey Neal, who was not in attendance last week, or actually he was, but he was involved in early trouble, put him on the negative side of the cut line. So with 2 races to go, that's the battle from ninth on down. Colin Forster, unfortunately, will not be here tonight. He'll be attending Monday Night Football to watch the Jags try and take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Unfortunately, in the process, that will end his playoff hopes. So we'll see who are the ones that are able to clutch up in these final 2 races to make a charge in the final 2 rounds post this evening. So while we're here and while we're at the Darlington Raceway, let's get a little bit more information on the track we'll be tackling tonight. Though many fans are familiar with the track, let's not go into it. Nonetheless, we have a 1.336-mile racetrack here in Darlington, South Carolina, opened all the way back in 1950 as the first asphalt superspeedway in America, with variable banking on each end of the racetrack and different radius turns, really, as the start finish line used to be on the opposite end of where it currently sits. The current backstretch used to be the front stretch, and the current backstretch used to be the front stretch, and vice versa. Turns 1 and 2 are old 3 and 4, and 3 and 4 is old 1 and 2. So Darlington used to be much different. It used to be a lot of a different perspective, even though the track was perfectly much the same, but it has always been very narrow. Drivers have really liked it. Others, maybe not so much if you're Kyle Petty, but nonetheless, it's been just a bunch of mixed emotions when it comes to the Darlington Raceway. And tonight, the drivers tackling this track won't feel any differently at all. Some will like it, some won't. And at least right now, a driver that's not, we haven't seen in a while is currently having the fastest time in qualifying with just a minute or so to go. So we'll see if those times stick throughout the end of this qualifying run. And playoffs are a big topic of conversation because we're just at that point in the season. So, with so many drivers still in contention to make the playoffs on points, it goes about. Do you try and gamble for wins? A win will not guarantee you in, but it just gives you so many points to help you out in that chase to try and get you up into the top 10. Others may try to take a little bit more of a conservative approach. They'll try to be a little bit safer, try to guarantee themselves a top 5 finish, and try and be there at the end and hope that the points work themselves out that way. Others maybe aren't going to make the playoffs and they're just racing for wins at this point. So all of those things jumbled up together could play a huge role when it comes to late race yellows, any kind of strategy that may play our way. It could just be exactly what could bring us another one of our ecstatic finishes that we've had all season long. In the dying seconds here of qualifying, we are just about getting ready to finish up and get ready to go over our starting grid for our rolling out for our South Carolina race here from the Darlington Raceway, and it is going to be a surprise pole sitter, I must say, for our race here from tonight's show. And moving on to our starting grid, you'll see that on the front row, it is going to be the number 4 of Eric Schaefer. He set the fastest lap in qualifying with a 30.4009 alongside Ethan Fonseca Moreno in the 077, looking to capture his first win on the season and guarantee himself a playoff spot here from tonight's race. Second row will go to Michael Walls. He's been short a couple of times, but a great qualifying effort could be what the 7 needs to try and work his way to the front alongside Stephen Magic, who we haven't seen in a couple of weeks. Obviously not in a position to make the playoffs, but he'll try to get a win nonetheless from the 4th spot. 5th goes to Cade Casola, who's had a great run of races, is in position to make the playoffs. We'll see if he's able to keep that up tonight. With AJ Green, last week's race winner, rounding out the 6th spot. Alexander Schumacher looking to try and get himself back into that regular season championship fight from the 7th spot, with Justin Roth second in points, able to qualify inside the top 10. Mikey Neal will be from the 9th spot. He'll need a lot of points to try and get himself back into that fight, into that cut line battle, with Duncan Foyer, points leader, rounding out the top 10. 11th goes to Craig Launtenslonger in his number 78, with Jonathan Jorgensmeyer alongside in the 12th spot. 13th goes to Kyle Benson, who's been short of a handful of wins so far this season, looking to try and improve on that here from Darlington. And Nicholas Bauman in the number 88 in the 14th position. Christopher Bishop will be rolling off in the 15th spot, with Trevor Haley in the 16th position alongside him. J.J. Hill in the 17th spot, with Craig Parks in the 18th position in his number 53 truck. The 5 of Brandon Banks will be rolling off from 19th, with teammate Michael Newborough rounding out your top 20. Keelan Belsh will be rolling off from the 21st spot, and rounding out our 22 truck field from tonight's show is going to be the number 17 of Chris Progar. And with that being said, we'll see if we have our second member in the booth available with us at this time. Nate Polite, well, thank you for joining us. Obviously, it was a little bit late. Classes extended a little bit beyond what you imagined, but you're here just before the green flag. So just kind of give us your quick thoughts on what to expect here tonight from Darlington.
Chaos. It's the track too tough to tame for a reason. Much similar to the timing of my classes, these drivers are going to struggle to keep a hold of everything on these trucks. It's such a thin racetrack. It's difficult enough to run one truck with just by yourself around this track. Going 2x2, sometimes you might even see them 3 wide around this place. It is going to be wild, even more so with playoff berths on the line. It's going to be an exciting one, Fran.
It's going to be very exciting to watch this event play out, and it'll be interesting because we start this race at sunset. So as they go down to turn 3, the sun will kind of play a glaring factor in the early stages of the race before we enter the truly night portion of the race. So it'll be a little bit uncomfortable. The track will be at its slickest right now before we get the track rubbered up a little bit more, and drivers will get comfortable, and the night will set in. But nonetheless, Nate, we're here. We're 9th race of the season. We've had 8 different winners in our opening 8 rounds. A really good opportunity to grab another one, and it'll be Eric Schaefer returning from his 5-race suspension, which began all the way back at the Rockingham Speedway, will lead the field off of turn number 4 and into the Geico restart zone for the first time this evening, and it'll be the green flag here from Darlington. And already trouble. Ethan
trouble
Fonseca
already.
Moreno looks like he got tagged off of turn number 2. He keeps it going straight. The green flag is still out, so no yellow flags will be waving. Another chaotic start from Darlington, much like Sack a couple of weeks ago. He keeps it straight, loses all the track position. Michael Walls takes the lead on lap 1. Eric Schaefer, which appears to be in trouble, and he disconnected.
Short-lived return there for Schaefer, but you saw the chaos already starting right on the start of this race. I mentioned how difficult it is to get 2x2 out of there. They get through the corner, but the more difficult part is getting out of the corner. The track gets so thin on exit, probably thinner here at Darlington than anywhere else. And that makes it so difficult, especially in traffic, to get out of harm's way. And you saw it there with some of the front runners from qualifying up on the outside lane getting into each other.
And I believe Schaefer just had a big moment because he has reappeared, and he has reappeared in the race lead. So a quick scare there for the driver of the number 4 machine, but keeps the top spot here through all the duress. And Moreno dropped all the way back to the 19th spot. There's the 077 truck as he recuperates inside the top 20, but after a front row starting spot, this is probably not exactly what he had in mind when he was thinking about how he's going to attack this green flag.
Yeah, not what he had in mind whatsoever, and certainly more so with consideration to the playoffs. He's 16 points clear of the cut line, and that's probably something that he can maintain without a disaster, but early on, losing 17 spots in the first 2 corners of the race it's not quite a disaster, especially in a 22 truck field. Not the worst thing that could have happened to him, but certainly not going to help his case for making the playoffs.
You're right, it's not going to help his case, but he has a long way to go. 125 laps in store for tonight's race, and there's the battle at the front of the field. AJ Green already getting close up to the back of that 7 truck, and he is peeking to the inside. You see Schaefer running all the way up towards that outside lane. Looks like Walls was trying to run more so the middle of the track, and Green was trying to go a little bit lower than that, and it's all about just trying to run a different line than the truck in front of you. These trucks don't have a lot of dirty air compared to the NASCAR Next Gen machines, Nate, but nonetheless, they still have to deal with trying to find different momentum, something to get them closer to the truck in front of them to try and advance for position. There's AJ Green with the run. Walls thinks about defending for a little bit, and these trucks are cording up, and there's Green now to the inside.
Say what, that SpongeBob 75 has become a fearsome truck to see in your rear windshield. In these last couple of weeks, he of course had the win within grasp at Knoxville, then won at Pocono. He is heating up at absolutely the right time. He got into the playoff standings after his win last week. He's looking to continue his position and make a run at the title.
He's trying to keep that up, and we're single file already through this field. One of those drivers that had a bad start was Steven Maggio, who we haven't seen, I believe, since I want to say it was the Charlotte race, or maybe even before that. So the 51 has had an absence here in this middle portion of the schedule, but he's back here from Darlington, which he had a top 3 effort in the SAC Cup Series race here. It's been a little bit of a struggling summer for the driver of the 51, Nate, from a couple of other races you've seen, but slowly but surely he's been turning it around, having some better runs. He's gotten a couple of wins in some other series that we don't cover on the channel, but trying to turn his fortunes around in the other leagues. As there's AJ Green now looking to the inside of Schaefer for the lead.
Yeah, and you saw he had to lift on corner exit right there. That's what I mean. You run out of racetrack really fast. If this is lap 125, they're coming to the checker. No doubt in my mind that Green uses up the 4 of Schaefer. But right there, lap 8, you absolutely have to get out of the gas so you don't run over the guy next to you. He's certainly got the faster truck. He's already driven up to him once. He's going to drive back up to him again. And really, you want to make the pass on corner entry. The move that the 75 just pulled right there to gain ground is the kind of move that you want to pull to make a pass. And he does not have to jump out of the throttle on exit to turn 4 here. It's right in the tire tracks of Schaefer heading to turn 1. We might see that attempt once again on the entry to turn 3 for a pass this time.
And that 75 definitely looks a little bit stronger than that 4, I would say, in 3 and 4 on the racetrack. So if Eric Schaefer is able to keep up the defense through the higher speed 1 and 2, he could just hold on for this position, because you can't really make any passes in 1 and 2, or at least you can, but it's going to be extremely difficult to not make contact or to keep up any kind of competitive speed without bringing in trucks from further behind. And in 3 and 4, with it being so much slower but also wider, it could be a perfect opportunity to make passes with the better braking zone. Schumacher was able to hang on to the 16 of Duncan Fall, and I would say this group really from 3rd through 7th, as arguably the most consistent group in the entirety of the season, led from Michael Walls, Justin Rott, Alexander Schumacher, Duncan Fall, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. That quintuplet of drivers, Nate, has been the top 5 best this season.
Yeah, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I mean, that's your top 5 in points right there, right? And these are guys that every single week, if they're not in contention for the win, they're in contention for a top 5, almost always in the top 10. These are the most consistent guys. Is that we see a little bit of a battle here that looks like Schumacher making a move on Justin Rott up to the outside. I talked about the slide jobs you can throw from the inside of turn 3. This is another move that you can take that Schumacher's doing, getting up on the outside, carrying more speed. You kind of extend the straightaway, more throttle time, and he moves right past the 76. Now Duncan Fall is going to try to follow suit.
And this is where it becomes difficult for Raw, as there goes Fall into the outside wall. And look how much time they lost in 1 and 2 after Shuey gets by. They quickly settle that one out to go single file. But Shuey had a great momentum run through 3 and 4 to get to the outside. And he had to have Justin Rock give it that position. As you see now, to the outside goes Mikey Neal and Jurgensmeyer. Early in the race, when they're side by side into 1, we might see some drivers give way, lean over, give the position away. But later in the race, drivers will contest that spot, because going side by side here can prove difficult. You see Jurgensmeyer have to lift and give away the position of the 8. Nearly got ran over by Kyle Benson and Nicholas Baumann. So that goes to show the troubles with doing that, as Baumann taps the outside wall pretty aggressively there in front of his teammate Trevor Haley. But this is something we're going to see all night, side by side into turn 1. Someone's going to have to give way. If not, it could be troublesome.
Yeah, we saw this, again, that trouble on the restart. And we've seen it in the real world. We've seen it in other leagues. It is perhaps the most difficult corner to make a pass in NASCAR, excluding road courses. Of course, there's plenty of corners. What's it, turn 3 at Road America? That's really just a kink in the backstretch and isn't much of a turn at all. So that is not easy to make a pass in that corner, but I don't think that's much of a real corner. Turn 1 at Darlington, at least as far as the ovals are concerned, probably the toughest pass in NASCAR, at least top 3.
Definitely up there for sure, Nate. But these two have done a great job of pulling away from Michael Walls for now. They've gotten over a second clear of the driver within the 7. And Schaefer, after dealing that suspension penalty for wrecking Michael Walls early on in that Rockingham event, got disqualified and removed from the session, was issued a 5-race suspension from the admin team. They had no tolerance for the intentional wreck that the Ford trick caused. But so far in his return through the opening 16 laps completed here, started on the pole and has led every single lap. So I am 100% confident that this is exactly the kind of runs Eric Schaefer prefers to have over the start to the season he had.
Yeah, the season did not get off to a great start, and then it came to not even a grinding halt, but an abrupt halt. You know, a 5-race suspension that takes up the entire regular season, pretty much removes any opportunity for you to make it to the playoffs whatsoever. So he's here to collect wins, maybe clear his name a little bit. But you mentioned these two guys taking off from the field, really reminiscent of the SAC race a couple weeks ago, which made me think of the other thing. The two dominant cars early in that race struggled with pit road. We haven't talked about it yet, but if we get to green flag pit stops, Fran, this is a tough pit road to get onto, as Justin Rott tags the wall in 2.
And he's going to tag the wall again off of turn 2, as now Jurgensmeyer goes to the bottom. But you're right about that, Nate, is that Darlington is probably the most difficult pit road to get on in the entirety of the NASCAR Cup Series schedule of racetracks. There's a lot of difficult ones. Darlington takes the cake. It is just incredibly difficult to get down to the lane because of how far down the racetrack the entrance is, but also how slow it is. You're putting so much wheel and brake at the same time. It's easy to miss the entry. And over the years, they added an extra cone to ensure that you don't turn in so late. You have to be all the way down there to have a safe entry. Otherwise, iRacing will issue an unsafe entrance penalty to you. So you have to make sure you're all the way down on the racetrack and slow within the proper speed to get in and out of pit lane. The window tonight that we can expect for these drivers is about 50 laps or so on a full tank of fuel. Obviously, tires wear a lot, but if we stay under the green flag, that lap number 50 mark will be important to remember, because you cannot one-stop it between now and the checkered flag if this race were to go green flag. So just very important information to keep on. Maybe drivers will try to split it up into thirds with 2 stops at an even point, or maybe they'll just try to go long in case of a caution flag, which seems to be the story of the season.
It's been the story of the season. I think it's been the story of every season on iRacing as we see Mikey Neal now work to the inside of Alexander Schumacher. Throw a blanket over these 5 trucks. How about it? Mikey Neal gets that move done, made it look easy.
Oh, 3 wide.
It's tough to pass this one. Oh, and Schumacher's in the wall.
Schumacher in the wall. 3 wide does not work, as side-by-side rarely does. Schumacher on the very outside of it is going to get the bad end of it. Looks like he has some right front damage on that 68 truck. You saw it live there. We'll get a second look at it. But you just kind of saw that happening with the 68 truck. He was battling for position on the outside of Mikey Neal. Neal got a great run to the inside. Nearly makes a little bit of contact. 60 has to check up. Benson and Jurgensmeyer side by side. Jurgensmeyer gasses up. Benson sees it, tries to back out. But it was too late for the 68, who they end up making contact with. And there's Schumacher now just in front of that 6 truck of Michael Newbraw. This is for the 16th spot. Moreno a little bit further back, has not recovered at all since his lap 1 incident. But nonetheless, we're back here at the front, and Eric Schaefer's now putting on a gap to AJ Green. Nearly a second separates your leader from second.
Yeah, taking off and putting on a clinic, keeping that race truck under him. It's so easy to make a mistake at Darlington, and you see from that angle the sun has started to set behind the Earnhardt Towers, so that issue probably gone unless, I guess, the rotation of the Earth reverses here. Pretty likely chance that that's not going to happen. So no more sun in their eyes for the most part. But this is what you were talking about pre-races. They come off of turn 2. That sun was glaring at these guys, but a fifth of the way through the race, no issues. A plume of smoke down the backstretch.
A plume of smoke. Saw Keelan Belsha slow a lap ago, but he got out of the way safely with no incidents. As the smoke still lingers on the backstretch, not exactly sure who may have caused it, but we still remain under the green flag as the completion of lap number 24. So we're about halfway through a fuel run here, and the lap times, Nate, if you look at the times since their fastest laps were set on the initial start of this run, they have fallen off nearly 2 seconds already. So these tires, just a perfect example of how much they get chewed up here at this mile and a third racetrack.
And that's back to the point that you were making about, as the caution comes out, right as I was going to talk about green flag pit stops, Gabe Cazzola goes for a loop.
And it is Gabe Cazzola that's in trouble. You see the right front damage to his truck. Looks like possibly some suspension damage dealt there to the 95 machine, rocking a Casey Kane throwback with that 95 font reminiscent of Evernham Racing. And we'll try to get a replay to see what happened to the playoff hopeful who was racing further back in the field. There you see Gabe Cazzola racing with, I believe that is Craig Parks in the 53. As they're going through 1 and 2, Parks hits the wall and Cazzola just barely gets into him, trying to go by. Doesn't leave enough space, and unfortunately for Cazzola, then spins back down the racetrack, and that's where the caution flag comes out. And these two were just inside the top 15, so an unfortunate break there for both of them, especially Cazzola, who's looking to make a playoff push. That throws out any strategy out the window, as the field is now in the pit lane for the first time tonight.
Yeah, and it was right as I was going to talk about the potential of, you go back to what you were saying about 1 stop versus 2 stop. I said 2 stop versus 3 stop in that case, but yeah, everyone's deciding, yep. We have 5 sets of tires in the pits. This caution came out at the 1/5 marker of the race. Sounds like a great time to put on 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. Unless someone decides to take 2, but I
don't think so.
I just can't quite imagine that at Darlington.
No, not with these vehicles. I can see that possibly being the case with the next-gen cars, given their track position and lack of tire wear compared to some of these other vehicles. I think we're going to see a lot of 4-tire calls. Indeed, that's the case. Schaefer just barely gets out in front of AJ Green, and mostly everybody within the top 5 holds serve from where they were running. Mikey Neal moves up a couple of positions to crack the top 5 for the first time this evening. For a lot of drivers who were involved in that trouble, we saw Moreno and Maggio there still sitting in the pit lane. This is a great opportunity for them to repair their cars. There's Maggio exiting a lane. Moreno trying to repair some of that truck damage from earlier on in the event. Eric Schaefer keeps the race lead off of pit road. Great execution. That won't be the last time he'll have to do that this evening. With that number 1 pit stall to his advantage. Now he has to deal with a restart for the first time tonight post the initial start of the race. And we'll see what the driver of the 4 has up his sleeve, which kind of lane he selects. how he gets going as the field takes the 1 to green, and you'll see he'll take the bottom lane. He'll have Michael Walls behind him, and Mikey Neal will move up into the 4th spot. I believe either a penalty or someone came back down pit road as he was 5th off the lane. But the A-Truck will be in the top 5 for the first time this evening. And Nate, that's the kind of run this A-Truck needs. He did not have a good Pocono by any stretch. An early incident really set him back in the points, and now he has to come back from nearly 20 points back to try and make this cut line battle with this race and Auto Club remaining.
Yeah, he's got to make a little bit of work, a little bit of headway here. He's got 113 points, so he sits 19 points back of the cut line and AJ Green, which is, of course, the truck in front of him. So while he's got a good run going himself, he's actually going to end up losing points as they stand right now.
We'll see how it all shakes up once we go back under the green flag and the restart gets underway. Eric Schaefer, AJ Green on the front row once again, and this time it'll be up to Schaefer on when to go in the restart zone. There it is. He gets a great launch with help from Michael Walls as Green struggles to get through the gears. Walls are clear for second. Schaefer leads to turn 1.
Perfect execution on the restart, and doubly so for Michael Walls. And now they're in that running order that they were in right after the original restart. And we'll see if Green can get back past Michael Walls. As Jurgensmeyer side by side with Faw into turn 3, still trying to navigate things, sort things out. And then very quickly, single file, pretty much all the way through the top 10, top 12.
Single file all the way through back to the 14th spot as there's Moreno going past the 6 of Michael Newbraw, Moreno, and Maggio up to the top 15, trying to recover from their incidents on lap number 1. There's Schumacher as well, trying to recover from his incident earlier, as theirs looks like it's almost trouble. Schumacher actually lost a lap in the ordeal, as there's Craig Lautenslager slow to the inside of the racetrack, nearly comes up in front of the 6. And battle for second nearly. AJ Green peaked to the bottom in turns 3 and 4, but tucked back in off the exit, and he'll keep that 3rd spot for now, but he is really putting on a challenge for this 7 truck.
Yeah, and he did this in that first run. He started doing it to the 4 a little bit, pressed him before the 4 started to get away. And you do wonder, as far as that went last run, because the 4 started to drive away from the 75, what was AJ Green's tire management like in that last run? Did he burn up his tires trying to get past the 4? What did he learn? What can he do differently this time? And how can he be a little bit more effective in tire management? Not burn up his stuff trying to make a pass. And if you're one of the guys defending, try not to burn up your stuff defending.
It's just a tire battle all the way through this field in terms of who can save at the right time. You see Green charge it into turn 3. He'll tag the outside wall in the process. May not hurt the longevity of his tires. So about momentarily, I think it was bound into the inside of Duncan Fall. Didn't really have the grip for it. But Schaefer and Walls, once again, in the top couple of positions on this run, much like they were on the initial drop of the green flag. Schaefer, it looks like he had a bit of a moment there off of turn number 2. Michael Walls will now have a run. Will he peek to the inside? The answer is no for now, but he's keeping his nose there ready as Schaefer drifts up.
Yeah, he actually gets his nose to the inside there at the center of the corner. He's not going to get the run on the exit there. You see the momentum that the 4 carries off the top half of the turn. And now the 75 is going to get to the 7. We'll see if he's able to make a move on it.
And how quickly it goes from offense to defense for Michael Walls, who had the nose to the inside of the race leader, but now he has to look in his rearview mirror to make sure that AJ Green doesn't take over the 2nd spot from him as they all start to accordion up again at the front of the field.
Yeah, what a battle for the lead we've got brewing with Schaefer, Walls, and Green, and as they keep battling, it's going to let these guys behind him get into the picture. Benson's up to 4th.
Benson is up to 4th, and he does like this Darlington Raceway, one of the better tracks for the driver, the 38, one of the that he feels comfortable at. He's a former winner here in the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, so he's had some success here from the track too tough to tame. He's earned a couple of Darlington stripes that have given him some good luck, and he is hoping to turn some of that luck around. It's just not been a fun couple of years for the driver of the 38. Has not gotten a win in that series in particular, all the way back to season 6 at the Daytona International Speedway on a last lap pass. Had a great run at Montreal just this past Wednesday. Was able to come away with a 3rd place effort on the podium for the first time. but he's looking to try and capture a race win. He's had a couple opportunities in this season, Nate. We saw him be competitive over at Nashville. Montreal looked like he was doing pretty well as well. But Kyle Benson's come up short a couple of times, and it's usually been at the hands of the green flag pit stop caution.
Yeah, always so treacherous, and that's why what seems like the obvious strategy mathematically isn't the obvious strategy in this race. Is because you think that if the race is guaranteed to run green, 3 stops the way to go with how much faster new tires are. I think it would almost certainly be faster than a 2-stop strategy, but the inherent risk in that is that you come down pit road, you lose a lap, and then the caution comes out, and it's game over for you in that sense. With that, we've seen it happen so many times this season, and it shakes up the strategy week over week, and it shakes up the strategy big time at a place that just chews up your tires.
You saw Schaefer tag the outside wall for turn 2. It doesn't look like it's anything big, but AJ Green is continuing to mount the pressure on Michael Walls, and those two were battling for the win last week at KBueno Raceway. Michael Walls just did not have anything there in the third overtime attempt, even with slightly fresher tires, to mount a charge at AJ Green. Had to settle for second. Right now, second is where the 7 truck runs, where he's finished a couple of times, it feels like, this season, second and third, trying to capture that win to really cement his season and become the 9th different winner, which really anybody, like about half of this top 10 could just about do. But right now, your top 2 have not gone to victory lane this season, and it has been a little bit different than the opening run of the race. You see a little bit of a pack, I would say about the top 8 or so, all the way back to Trevor Haley, as there goes Benson now to the inside of AJ Green. They remain side by side through 1 and 2. This could get very tricky, as you see Green try to arc it down on the corner. What a great defense by AJ Green through 1 and 2. You see that pack of about 8. Then you go back to nearly a second and a half to find Stephen Maggio and Justin Roth, the leaders of the second group of cars of 4, with Brandon Banks kind of straddling there. And then you have to go all the way back to Chris Progard and Craig Lautenslager battling for the 14th spot. So this front pack, if you will, has become its own set of packs of 3.
Yeah, especially after a first run that saw 2 trucks really just take off from the field. Now one of those trucks was getting caught like a dog by Michael Walls, who now gets a lane lower than Schaefer. And we mentioned Schaefer coming back from a 5-race suspension. Care to guess who the guy that he spun to cause that suspension was?
And there's Michael Walls stalking Eric Schaefer right now for the race lead. Schaefer made a mistake a few laps ago. We saw the back end kind of kick out on that Ford truck. But I bet you right now he is definitely not wanting to be like the Dodgers are right now, where they had a nice, comfortable lead late in this wildcard game, and they might just be slipping it away. Schaefer tags the outside wall. That'll give another opportunity for Walls to maybe peek down the bottom, but he's not going to take it here in 1 and 2.
He stays in line. It was a big moment from Schaefer, collecting it up off the wall, and he gets another little stripe on the apex of turn number 2. Michael Walls is all over his rear bumper. He absolutely has an opportunity, and he's going to have to take this opportunity sooner rather than later. But again, as far as tire management goes, you can't just send it every corner. You have to be methodical. You have to get the run. It is going to kill your tires to try to make this move and fail at it. You've got to make it stick.
And the thing is, Nate, also, as there's a big dive by Benson, he'll wreck. He'll get AJ Green into the wall. Juergensmeyer gets in and tags a piece of it. But it is Kyle Benson with the big damage to his race truck, as he'll end up crashing here in turns number 1 and 2. We saw the big send on the inside by the driver of the 38. And that's what we had talked about when making moves to the inside of turns 1 and 2, Nate, is that there's just not enough room to make that pass work without contact. And for Green and Benson, that's going to really hamper their race.
2 wrecks tonight. They've both come at the hands of 2 wide in turn number 2, and this one crucially damages the 75 SpongeBob truck of AJ Green. Back-to-back top 2 finishes, got him 12 points above the cut line coming into playoffs. This is going to hurt him tremendously. You see there, Benson, he just dives it in, loses the grip, and I mentioned that making a move and failing was going to really hurt your tires. It's because they lose that grip. And you see it here, we'll go watch it again. He gets the inside. He's not fully established by corner entry, but he's got a nose and he says, it's my time. And there is really just not room to make that move for Kyle Benson. And
Yeah.
he is the big loser damage-wise here. But again, I want to reiterate, AJ Green plus 12, and one of the guys that passed him, Mikey Neal, I mentioned, that's a huge point swing now for the 8 truck.
And a track position aid for the 8 truck to enter pit road from third, where we'll back here having to execute on the lane. But AJ Green, though he has damage to his truck, it might not be as much as Benson. He hangs on to fourth because of the timing of the yellow flag here. But those are the kind of mistakes that you can't afford to make. And for AJ Green, who's right on that cut line despite the win, you have to think he has to repair that truck, whatever damage it has got, because it could really hamper your performance. But also in that same token, track positions just meant so much. We've seen that already. It's been tough to pass. I think the move by Benson is a clear example of that. As here's the race off pit road. Your top 3 remain unchanged as Jurgensmeyer just gets off ahead of the 88 for the 4th spot. And of course, there's AJ Green taking the damage repair on the pit lane. So unfortunate for the driver of the 75 truck winner from last week. He's going to have to lose the track position repairing his race truck to make sure it can become competitive again for this final 80 laps or so in this race. Still a long way to go, but not an ideal situation. Just he's not going to be too happy about it, Nate, but I mean, it was a very optimistic move from Benson. Normally when you make that dive, you're even, maybe have a nose out in front, but to just barely be there and go that far into the corner, it was very optimistic from Benson. Obviously not an intentional move to cause that wreck by any means. It was just a very optimistic move. I don't think that it went exactly the way he planned.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think you're right about the desperation on track position, but I combat that with look at some of these guys that just exited the frame, like Ethan Fonseca Moreno. He's moved himself back into 7th place after some early problems. So I think that as so long as you're patient and you're in AJ Green's position here, you can get your track position back. You can get yourself back toward the front. It will, of course, be tougher to pass these really fast race trucks. But that 75 has been fast. I mean, we've kind of established so far on the show that he's probably the 2nd fastest truck on the racetrack. He certainly was in the first run and was given the 4 run for his money. Really one of 2 guys to do that all race long. So that's a fast SpongeBob 75. If they can get that repaired, he's going to be okay.
We'll see how he performs in the second half of this event after repairing that damage to his racetrack. Eric Schaefer, Michael Walls on the front row. There's the launch to the restart. A great jump here from that 7 truck. He's going to be even with Eric Schaefer going to turn 1. And there goes Mikey Neal sideways through 1 and 2. Can he save the truck? He does. Walls is sideways. Schaefer sideways. Here comes Jurgensmeyer.
Everybody's sideways in turns 1 and 2 right there. Jurgensmeyer's going to take the dive. Then thinks better of it, but now it's Justin Rott up to his outside. And all of a sudden, it's a brand new cast of characters chasing down Schaefer.
And Mikey Neal lost nearly 10 spots from that loose moment there on the cold tires on that restart. That is not going to help his point situation, but that quickly has put Jurgensmeyer into this battle.
In Jurgensmeyer, we praise his consistency pretty much every broadcast we do, but he knows how to be aggressive when he needs to. And he knows how to be disciplined and how to save his tires. So if this run's going to go long, I like Jonathan Jurgensmeyer here, but I think he also knows when the intensity gets high that he needs to make a move.
And he will make a move. The race winner from Montreal. We've seen him be good at saving his tires, saving his equipment, and being consistent. That's the trademark with Jurgensmeyer whenever he runs, and he's got a great run here off of turn 2. He's to the inside looking for the race lead.
Yeah, there's the move down the inside. He does not throw it in nearly as aggressively as he could. He just kind of rolls the bottom, and he's going to stay right behind the 4 down the straightaway. That's the discipline that I talk about. I mentioned a couple of times, you can absolutely destroy your tires and destroy your run if you throw it way too hard trying for the pass. Jurgensmeyer didn't try the slide job. He simply entered low. Once he realized that pass wasn't going to happen, he just didn't throw the slider. He looks inside again, And once again, not an attempt at a slide job, just takes the inside lane. He's rolling it super smooth. It's definitely a little more taxing on the tires, but it's certainly not nearly as much as just throwing the truck in there.
Absolutely right, and it's going to mount the pressure on Eric Schaefer is what that's going to do, is having to be perfect to not let Jurgensmeyer get to the inside with more track position relative to him. Jurgensmeyer's done a good job the last couple of laps. It looks like Schaefer will stave him off for now, but Jurgensmeyer definitely making that Ford truck having to look in his mirror, having to think about how to place his truck better. You see Schaefer move to the bottom that time. And how about this? In the entire ordeal, Ethan Fonseca Moreno has recovered nicely. Now he finds himself into the top 5 for the first time since his opening lap trouble.
Yeah, that's patience, and that's a lot of skill. That sack race that we had here at Darlington, Ethan Fonseca Moreno was the fastest on the racetrack. He's the fastest on the racetrack most of the races that we go to, most of the races that he goes to, pretty much no matter the shape or size of the place. So it was only a matter of time as long as he stayed patient. As his battle up front, it's become less of a fight kind of battle, more of a chess match between our two leaders.
And I'd like to just tell you, Nate, I'm not sure if you watched the Montreal show from this past Wednesday night, but Ethan and I, we had a fantastic battle for the race win at Montreal. We were just going back and forth there between the traffic, making mistakes. I made some, he made some, and then just late there, within 2 laps to go, just close quarters racing. I had a mistake, had to give up some time because of a lap car. Then he makes a mistake, has to give up time on the last lap, and going into the final chicane, I'm just barely there, but wasn't quite enough to rattle Ethan, and we put on a great show in the closing stages of a road course race to deliver a great one, and it was Ethan that came out on top. And it was not a race he felt confident in going into it, thought he was going to struggle, but that just goes to show the persistence the driver, the 077, has. You see him making a move for 4th as Jurgensmeyer peaked for the race lead momentarily. But to finish my point, that's just exactly what Ethan Fonseca Moreno is about. It's about persistence. Even when he doesn't feel like he's at his strongest, he performs, and he's always ready to deliver.
Absolutely, he is a machine behind the wheel, it almost seems like, and no matter what happens, he's always going to find himself up there, and he holds himself to an extremely high standard as well. He knows his skill. And we see, another mistake out of Schaefer out of turn number 4. Jurgensmeyer is hounding him right now.
Absolutely, he is not letting that Ford truck get into a rhythm to save tires, and that could be all Jurgensmeyer lead. Look at that better run. He gets through the center of turn number 2, and that could give him another chance to peak to the bottom. But he's not going to take it yet. Just playing the patient game here is Jurgensmeyer. And I'll tell you what, Nate, I don't know about you, but I am struggling to keep track of 2 things at once. I am looking at this wild card game just off to my left-hand side here. I'm looking at the on-track action. I'm having a hard time keeping up with both.
It is a couple of exciting sports.
There's Jurgensmeyer once again on the back bumper. Going into turn 3, he'll peak down low. And you can just tell how patient Jurgensmeyer's being with Eric Schaefer. Not willing to make contact with the race leader, just being patient, letting this come to him, saving a little bit of tire while trying to see where the Ford truck is struggling. But he can't play it too patient because Michael Walls is ready to pounce if he makes one mistake.
Yeah, any slight mistake out of Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, as uncharacteristic as it might be, is still going to be multiplied so many times over by the fact that this is Darlington Raceway. That red and white striped wall will come out and it will grab you if you're not careful. And it's so difficult to stay disciplined. We've talked to Jonathan Jurgensmeyer several times, and while we praise his discipline, he admits that it is one of the hardest possible things to do, especially, I think it must be especially so when you have pretty much every lap of this run how to run on the leader coming into turn 3, really the passing zone at Darlington.
And it's difficult to not make the contact because it's such a narrow track. You just want to get out there in the lead, and you might make some contact. Nothing crazy, but you see the 0x pop up on the top of your screen. And for either Schaefer or Jurgensmeyer, that's exactly all it could take to turn this battle in the wrong direction for either one of those drivers. You see Schaefer actually have a better run there through turn 2 that could bring Michael Walls possibly into this battle for second. but just nobody's been able to really drive away ever since that opening run of the race where we saw Schaefer build just over a 1 second lead. But Jurgensmeyer has done a great job of keeping the pressure on that Ford truck, but for now seems to have backed off, and now Michael Walls is looking ready to pounce.
Yeah, Wall's all over Jurg. And I think it was Jurg caught the wall at the top of turn number 2 last time. I just had to kind of gather it back up. Now you see he gets his kind of patented run through the center and now down the backstretch. Puts a little more space between he and the 7 truck. And it's a little bit more of a chase on the floor.
And you see the gap starting to build out in front. Schaefer being a little bit more consistent, and that time 2/10 quicker than Jurgensmeyer's. There's the move for second. Michael Walls will take it. Jurgensmeyer will give it to the 7 truck, and now Ethan Fonseca Moreno will join this battle in hopes of trying to take the spot away from Jurg. You see Jurg sliding now, so it looks like possibly a case of Jurgensmeyer using his tires to keep up with Schaefer, as there goes Moreno now to the outside.
Yeah, those tires gone off the 00, and that is something that it's also a risk. I mentioned the risk of trying too hard to make the pass and killing your tires. It's so hard to run just directly behind somebody for an entire run as well. That's going to hurt your tires. Oh, big moment for the 4. He catches the wall. Huge.
Might have tagged the wall, just being distracted by the lap truck of Gabe Cazzola out in front. Cazzola will hold his line and give enough space for Schaefer to get by with no real issues. And it is going to be, yes, as the final strikeout occurs, it is the Los Angeles Dodgers winning a classic here in the wildcard game. Actually, not a strikeout, it was a ground out, but a fantastic ending to what is going to be surely a great game too. The Dodgers take a 2-0 series. I was keeping my eye intently on that game. Really glad to see that one really pan out for the LA Dodgers. Not my favorite team, but still my household is generally favoring of Shohei Ohtani. As you see here, he's one of the greatest of all time, indeed. And one of the greatest racetracks of all time is Darlington Raceway, and it is delivered here tonight through the halfway portion of this race. Just battles all over the track. You see Gabe Cazzola making it very difficult for some of these lead lap trucks getting by, and you see it start to form some gaps up. And you see there's Steven Maggio up in the 6th spot. He's recovered nicely from his fair share of incidents as well. He is almost at the crack of the top 5, looking to chase down Justin Roth. Him and Moreno have done a great job of driving through this field.
Absolutely, and it's tough to pass here, but when you're confident in your skill and in your truck, you are going to be A-okay. There's some more contact. Gabe Cazzola has looked like a pinball these last couple of weeks. He's been just bounced around, shoved all over the racetrack after having a couple of really good runs to kind of mount a comeback in that playoff chase. He's struggled. That wounded 95 truck now is really getting bullied everywhere. But as you're talking about with Maggio and Moreno, they've got the pace. They're going to get back up there. There is still pit stops to be had in this race. There's probably still a caution or two to be had in this race. So really anything goes the rest of the way here.
And there's Moreno now closing in slowly on the back of Michael Walls to try and mount a challenge for the 2nd spot. And he's been mirroring lap times closer to Eric Schaefer at this point in the run than anybody else has been able to. And in that last lap, nearly a 10th quicker than your race leader. So if Ethan Fonseca Moreno could get past this 7 truck, he could definitely mount the challenge for the top spot with the older tires. And Moreno's one of the best at saving tires and one of the best at Darlington Raceway. So if he is able to slowly chase down that Ford truck, we could have a great battle for the top spot. But again, remember, 50 or so laps is the magic number on fuel, and with just over 55 laps to go in this race, that means one more pit stop remains for sure. The question is, when do drivers make it? Do they run it dry? Do they split it? That's a great question to ask, just like we were doing so in the opening run.
And I still think the math says that you only need 1 stop. I think the math is 2 stops, but I think that, as with any good math equation or any horrible math equation, if you're someone like me that really did not enjoy the subject, is the variable, and that is, when does that yellow flag fly and throw a wrench into every single plan? And that is what's keeping these guys away from making the easy decision. Is Ethan Fonseca Moreno is weaving all over the front stretch behind the 7 of Michael Walls.
Yeah, Michael Walls is not just going to hand him that second place spot. He is going to defend, even though he is not having the same pace as Eric Schaefer, but Walls trying to battle for a spot for a potential regular season championship, which would reward him some more playoff points. Moreno trying to seal up a spot in that top 10 and trying to capture his first win of the season. Both are, for that matter. There's Moreno with a run again, peeking the inside, not nearly as big of a block. Walls runs a little bit higher. Moreno all the way down to the flat. And those are different lines we see in real life. Normally that flat has a lot more grip, but it was just not there for Moreno. He's going to have to sit behind this 7 truck at least for another couple of laps. Maybe hope for a mistake out of Walls because it is just going to be so difficult to get around him.
Yeah, and you're so late in the tire run here as well. There's not a lot of life in these tires, not a lot of grip, so it's even harder to make it stick down at the bottom of the racetrack on that flat part. But Ethan Schaefer is enjoying that view out of his rearview mirror. Ever since the 00 of Juergensmeyer started to fall off a little bit, F4 has really just enjoyed the ability to stretch his legs.
Yeah, he's just absolutely been putting on a little bit of a bigger gap lap by lap, and it's been helped by Michael Walls holding up this Ethan Fonseca Moreno machine, who's been one of the better long-run trucks apart from your race leader. And if we do happen to get into the cycle of green flag pit stops, the timing of when you pit will be important. We know that the undercut will get you a lot of lap time instantly, but will you pay the price on the back end of the run, and how much will it really end up working out for you? If you're someone like Ethan, maybe you try the undercut because you have to take advantage of the new tires when you can, or maybe you just try to wait it out longer, wait for a caution flag, but if it doesn't come out, then you have fresher tires for the final 35 or 30 laps of the race, and you could run everybody down nearly half a second faster. So there's no wrong way to go about it. A lot of it just depends on when and if we see a yellow flag.
Yeah, and again, I will say, if one of these leaders comes down and pits under green flag, is that going to draw the rest of the leaders onto pit road with him, as you see Jonathan Juergensmeyer drop another spot, this to Stephen Maggio.
And slowly but surely, Justin Raw has been catching up to the battle for second. You see Moreno almost getting to the back of Michael Walls. He might have done so, but you see him just starting to get a little bit more aggressive with that 7 truck, and it's slowly bringing in the 76 into this. Raw has been running faster lap times than everybody in the top 3 by a wide margin. That last lap was nearly 3/10 quicker than the race leader, so Justin Raw may have just saved his tires nicely here, as there's Moreno peeking to the outside, looking to cross over. The 7 truck gets loose off of turn 4, had a lot of wheel in it, and he will not be there. So just another lap for Moreno stuck behind Michael Walls.
Moreno's thinking, I've got to go, and you saw the attempt right there at a turn 4. He's clearly the faster truck here, but he doesn't want to lose spots in a 2-for-1 sale to Justin Rott. We might see that here as he closes to the back of Moreno. Now Rott goes on the attack to the bottom of turn number 3, hugs that apron transition, is not going to get the run out of the corner quite. Throw a blanket over these 3, why don't you?
Yeah, the top side clearly so much faster when defending spots and trying to attack that it's going to be difficult for Rott to make the position up on the 77, the 077. We saw just how much of a lap time difference he had, as now he goes to the inside. Maybe he'll clear him this time. You just have to wonder, to make that pass, you might need over half a second of a difference. He has to check up mid-corner, and Michael Walls is there as almost contact off the corner. Now Moreno may have momentum. Now he looks to the inside on Walls.
And I think that the 76 would have gotten that pass done on this 077.
Oh, there's contact.
If Michael Walls wasn't there.
And Michael Walls trying to keep it sideways, and he saves it. A great save there by the 7 truck, as Maggio will go by. Minimal damage to Walls, as you see a little bit of back bumper bent, but that was an aggressive move by Moreno to take the spot. But immediately Justin Rott is there. A little bit of contact with Moreno, and he immediately loses the spot to Rott. But a little bit of clearer racetrack now for both of them, as Michael Walls, who had been struggling for grip over the last 20 or so laps, gets moved down the order, and he settles in 5th. And Maggio now finds himself up into the top 4.
Yeah, the 7 out of the way, and so Rott very easily able to get past the 077 and is driving away and going to try to run down Eric Schaefer. Michael Walls is playing a lot of defense. And defense is all fine and dandy, and it's fair game, but it gets to a point a lot of times, especially when you've got an aggressive driver, like Ethan Fonseca Moreno behind you. Like, all right, man, I've got to go, and you are in my way. It's time to move, or you're going to get moved. And it was certainly an aggressive move by Ethan Fonseca Moreno in turns 1 and 2 to get by, as now you got another little 3-truck battle here in the middle of the pack.
Brandon Banks has driven up into the top 10 with Nicholas Baumann just behind him, and there's Mikey Neal trying to recover from his issue on the restart. Remember, he restarted third, but troubles in cold tires with a loose race truck resulted in him falling outside the top 15, is currently running 10th, but you can't help but think what would have been for the driver of the 8 and the track position he had. Probably hoping for at least one more caution flag in this race to give him a chance to gain some more points to make his life at Auto Club all that much easier, because Nate, one of the few things we haven't talked about is that the points format in this series is not your traditional 1 point for position. Whilst yes, it is 1 point for position, it's not a predetermined number. It changes race by race depending on how many trucks are entered into the race, and that has been the case since the opening round at Daytona. So if you need 10 points, yes, you need 10 positions on the racetrack, but the variance in which you have to rely on as far as having, I don't know, 20 trucks or 30 trucks, it would do you much better to have 30 trucks out on the field, because it just makes the room for something to happen, the margin for error, a lot bigger. As I believe Michael Walls is racing, yes, there he is now racing with Juergensmeyer, but having more trucks is favorable for those below the cut line, because it gives them just that little bit better of a chance for chaos to reign and give themselves an opportunity to shoot themselves up the standings.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had some small fields the last couple of weeks, so certainly not been too helpful to the guys on the bottom side of the cut line. You know, and as they run, of course, we don't have the live points, but really the big names here are the AJ Greens of the world, who he's still stuck in 19th. Mikey Neal, who we just talked about. Craig Parks, he's not having a phenomenal race either, so, and neither is Gabe Cazola, who's there close to the cutoff line. A couple other guys near the cutoff line, no shows tonight, so really, even though it's a small field, I think a lot of chance for shakeup right now.
And let's be clear about one thing, Nate. We do say small fields, as there's Eric Schaefer now bringing it to the pit lane, approaching 40 laps to go. The race leader will be the first one into the lane, has to slow it down to pit road speed and make sure that he has a clean execution. So this will start a green flag cycle. We're 40 laps into this run, so it's an even split for the driver of the 4. There's Duncan Fall, I believe, further back in as well. Indeed, that's the 16. And that assumes the race leader Justin Rott in the 76. But my point was that no, it just the point just kind of left my mind. I don't remember exactly what it was I was going to say in that moment in time. If it was important, I'm sure I would have remembered. But nonetheless, green flag pit stop sequence here could be starting, and with the 4 truck pitting first, is going to give him a great advantage on tires, where we saw him starting to lose speed in the tail end of that run to Moreno, to Maggio. So he obviously decides he's going to pit here. He's going to recycle out in the 13th position, but he is 1 lap down at the moment. He is the first car 1 lap down for the time being. So if the caution flag comes out, he can get back on the lead lap with no troubles. Though the question is, when is everybody else gonna pit? And it looks like Brandon Banks will be the next one. So that's a teammate of Schaefer. There's Juergensmeyer into the pit lane as well here on lap number 88. Now we're going to start seeing that chess game. When do you pit?
And how long do you want to wait for a caution to come out? Justin Rott, I think it was pretty clear, did a good job of saving his tires. So he might be willing to wait a little bit longer. Looks like Steven Maggio is deciding to pit, and here is Justin Rott as well. So is Ethan Fonseca Moreno with a really aggressive entrance to pit road.
Oh, and they're making contact. They were
two.
sliding into the lane. I think Moreno made the pass on Rott while entering the lane without speeding. What a move by Ethan Fonseca Moreno.
And that can be a total difference maker at the end of this race. And that's the aggression. I mentioned that Ethan Fonseca Moreno is aggressive and skilled. And I'll be honest with you, I think that he might have just decided he wanted to pit once he saw the 76, because that did not look like the entry angle that one might normally take coming into pit road here if they were deciding that in the middle of the backstretch.
And I'll tell you what, Nate, that It was a very optimistic move for him to do that, but it was within the limit. And you see, he clearly no penalty for the 77 as he'll win the race off pit road. That could make the difference, as he was just waiting out on the racetrack. He was on the banking, which helped him with the braking, and arced it down to the corner. Rott was trying to compensate as soon as he saw Moreno doing that, but that's why green flag pit stops matter, Nate. We don't talk about it a lot because we haven't had that many, but it is so important getting on and off pit road because it could make the difference. And the gap between Moreno and Rott before the pit stops was half a second to the advantage of Rott, and right now it's about 0.6 to the advantage of Moreno. So over 1 second gained on just that pit road entry and execution by Ethan Fonseca Moreno could make the difference, as they're 5.5 seconds behind Eric Schaefer. Big gap, but they do have fresher tires by the gap of about 3 laps.
Yeah, well, and we will see just how much those 3 laps mean, but really Eric Schaefer, he's done such a good job of managing the gap on longer runs all race long, so I really like the idea of him coming out to pad his gap a little bit more. That gives him a great opportunity to save some tires while everyone else has to work, and I think the tires could end up equalizing over the course of this run a little bit.
And that possibly could be a penalty. You saw it right there as we switched to Michael Walls. He went past that yellow line after passing the orange cone, which could be an unsafe pit entry for this 7 truck. We'll just have to see if once the surface is complete on his truck, if he's staying in the lane. I noticed he crossed that yellow line with just the right sides, and sometimes iRacing will deem that as a penalty. So Eric Schaefer's just taken back the race lead. He has led a majority of this race since the drop of the green flag, and he'll have a approximate 6 second, and it doesn't look like there's any penalty there for Michael Walls, so good for him, but that was definitely a close call with that yellow line, as Moreno, I believe, made a mistake at one point. He's been passed by Justin Rott and Steven Maggio here. They all pitted together on the same lap. Moreno either taking it easy or struggling on these cold tires, but you see he lost a couple of spots. There's Duncan Fall just behind him on 3-lap older tires. Justin Rott, though, 6 seconds behind race leader Eric Schaefer. He's going to have approximately 32 laps to try and close up that gap, and it is not going down. It's actually slowly been increasing.
Yeah, that's something I think that we may not see the tire life differential really come in until the end of the run, but I just don't think Justin Rott was fast enough at the end of that last run. He certainly was gaining on the Ford truck just a little bit, but it was not nearly significant enough. And really, Schaefer just needs to run these next handful of laps at about 85, 90%, and then see where Justin Rott is as they get to the final 15, and then really go from there. Just really try not to make any mistakes right now. You've got a big lead. You might as well use it.
Well, he's been running some of his fastest laps while out in front, so saving tires does not appear to be a forefront right now for this Ford truck. He is trying to make sure the gap is at its largest. Probably doesn't feel like he has to save tires with 30 laps to go. Probably thinking we could see a yellow flag between now and the checkers and bring everybody back down the lane, or just does not think that Rott has enough in it to close that gap back up. You see attack of the outside wall there. That's not exactly ideal. But we did see Rott get a 3 to 4/10 advantage towards the end of that run with equal tires, and with slightly better ones that could be north of half a second per lap in the final 10 or 15 laps, which, if my math serves correct, Nate, with 10 laps to go, half a second, you're talking about exactly the gap that exists. So it could very well present itself an opportunity for Justin Rott to be there in the closing laps of this race.
That's exactly why I'm saying that Ford just needs to kind of mind his P's and Q's and, one, not beat up his tires too much, but not make a mistake like he did on the exit of turn 4 a couple laps ago when he tank swapped and hit the outside wall. But another point to that is Justin Rott might have the pace to catch that Ford truck at the end of this race, but catching the guy is one thing. Passing him is a whole other thing, and we see it time and time again, especially at a track like Darlington where it's so difficult to make that move.
And I'll tell you what as well, Moreno had a great pit stop sequence, but ever since exiting the lane has not ran fast laps at all. I'm not sure if that's going down as his tire saving process, as he's been 0.3 or so slower than most of his competition. Maybe he didn't get the fuel filled all the way and he might be short and has to save some fuel. I'm not too sure. You know, autofill with iRacing, if you don't forget to uncheck it, it has the tendency of leaving you short on fuel. So everybody always reminds each other, hey, turn off auto fuel, because it could just about do the opposite of what it's meant to do. So for Moreno, either that's the case or he is just struggling here to keep up with paces. There's Duncan Fall battling with Trevor Haley. I believe that's Trevor Haley, who's a lap down in this race, 2 laps down in this race for that matter. It has not been the season to remember for the 12 truck since Daytona after that win. And Duncan Fall trying to have another top 5 result to extend that points lead. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, one of his competitors, in the 6th spot behind him. And both of them don't want to see this 76 truck continuing to close the gap. A race win here for Justin Rott will put him in the driver's seat for the regular season championship.
Not only that, a win in this race for Justin Rott would make him the only driver to win more than all season long. I feel like that might have been lost in the shuffle a little bit. We mentioned it briefly earlier in the race, but 8 races, 8 winners. It's looking like we're going to go 9 for 9 tonight.
Well, don't say that just yet, because approaching 25 laps to go, the gap is closing. It is under 5 seconds now between your top 2. It's Justin Rott slowly but surely closing in on the race leader here with 25 laps remaining. 4.8 seconds, not impossible, because in the last 10 since the pit stop, it has closed by over a second. So don't say bye just yet if you're in sync here with Justin Rott.
And it's not only Justin Rott. That 51 of Stephen Maggio has not lost touch with him either. He's really is kind of, it almost looks like he's letting the 76 set the pace here and following him through to the leader and seeing where that all goes.
And that last lap, half a second faster, was Justin Rott from Eric Schaefer. The gap down to 4.2 seconds. So we could see these two possibly catch up to that 4 truck, and Schaefer's not going to make it easy. He is never an easy pass. I can tell you that from experience, but he is going to race for this race win, as he should at that, Nate. But it is going to be very difficult for him to hold off both of these trucks behind him with the fresher tires, with this pace advantage. There's just not much he can do. But we'll see when they close up the gap. That last time, another half a second. It is 3.8 seconds between Rott and Schaefer. The gap is really starting to close in now. Possibly might want to look at this battle between Rott and Maggio for the potential race for the win. There's Eric Schaefer. Not sure if he's backing it down more, trying to save any tire. But the case is that the two behind him are closing that gap up with 22 laps remaining now.
At 22 laps, that's such a long way to go, and they're already eating into that gap really more than I thought they would. And you got to wonder, it's likely one of two things. Schaefer is either backed it down to try to save a little bit more tire, or he's completely blown his tires out trying to build his gap as much as possible. 94 laps led tonight. If he's not able to come home in victory lane, this is going to be a disappointment of disappointments for Ford.
Absolutely. He has led all but 10 laps, and that came during the pit stop sequence when he first dove it into the lane, trying to see if he can bring home a dominant effort from the Darlington Raceway, the track too tough to tame. And it still has a bit of a ways to go. The last couple of laps looks like everybody's kind of evened out a little bit more. The gap's still closing, but not nearly as fast as half a second. It was only about 2 or 3 tenths the last lap by Justin Rott. As the gap currently sits 3.3 seconds, there you can visually see the distance between those two. As on this particular lap, it was only 2 tenths. So the gap's still closing, but not nearly at the same rate. And that's what Eric Schaefer wants to see. He doesn't want that gap closing at such a big rate. If he can manage that in these final 20, that could be all he needs to hold on for the win. But don't hand it to any of these top 3 yet. We still have 19 laps after this one to determine that.
Yeah, no, dare I even say, utter the C word, a caution potentially would throw a crazy wrench into this entire race and really turn it up on its head. I would assume at this point, were a caution to occur, everybody would bring it down pit road, but maybe someone or a couple of people decide to get a little crazy, take 2 tires, maybe someone decides to stay out, and chaos could very well ensue. But that's probably the last thing any of these top 3 want to hear or even think about.
I don't think so. I don't think anybody in this field, if you're not in the top 3, is thinking about a caution. Everybody else might. But with now 18 laps remaining from Darlington, the gap is 2.5 seconds between Eric Schaefer and Justin Roth. The rate of close that last lap was 4.5 tenths. So it's ranging between 2 and 4 tenths now between your top two, the closing rate there. And Justin Roth slowly also having to pick up that 51 in his rearview mirror. So whilst he is catching Schaefer, he has to think about the fight within the fight, and that's keeping that 51 Aris Toyota Tundra behind him.
I think that's an issue for after you get past the Ford truck. I think that one, he's far enough behind that you're not really worried about it's attack, attack, attack for Justin Roth. And I think another thing is you see a little further up the road there as we're on board with Stephen Maggio, lap traffic is going to play a little bit of a factor in this race. You just saw the Gabe Cazola dive out of the way, but also you saw the 14 truck get out of the way of the 4 truck. But there's another truck right there in front of the 4, so lap trucks are going to try to get out of the way as best they can, but it's not always the easiest thing to do, especially at a track like Darlington.
Battle inside the top 10. There's Brandon Banks, who's moved his way up into 6th past Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. And Banks has done a really good job on this long run, saving those tires, and it could result in a really decent finish here. The driver of the number 5 machine, Mikey Niels, recovered up to 9th. Michael Newbraw finds himself up into 10th in this long run, as there now goes Banks looking to the inside for a possible spot inside the top 5. We'll take it easy with 4 as there's Jurgensmeyer. This is a nice little battle going on inside the top 5, about a second or so behind Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who I am unsure entirely what caused him to drop back 5 seconds from that lead battle. I believe it probably had a lot to do with saving fuel, because now he's running lap times compared to the drivers he's pitted with. But it was really confusing. I really think it was a situation that he had the auto fuel on, and it did not have enough fuel to get to the end of the race, and he had to save in case the caution flag didn't come out, which you have to do. You can't count on the caution flag coming out if you're 2 laps short on fuel, especially with 30-40 laps to go. You just can't bank on that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and yeah, that's of course the correct move for his championship hopes as well, because he only needs points. It's not a matter of the win. He just needs points to keep him parked inside that front group, does Ethan Fonseca Moreno. So as you see Alexander Schumacher dive out of the way of the race leader, but Justin Roth is getting into the same frame now as Eric Schaefer. That gap is closing just as rapidly as ever right now.
And Schaefer had a pretty decent slide there off of turn 4. That's not going to help his case, as the gap now down to half a second between your top 2 out on the racetrack with 12 laps remaining. There they are on the same screen. Justin Roth closing in on Eric Schaefer. Stephen Maggio closing in on Eric Schaefer and Justin Roth in the process. It is 0.8 of a second separating your top 3.
Yeah, it's 1 lap truck in front of the 4 truck, and after that, it looks like pretty clean racetrack for the foreseeable future. And Justin Roth might get to Schaefer before they get to the lap truck of Parks.
We'll just have to see, as now it is just about truck lengths. It is no longer about time. How does the 76 set up this pass? You see Schaefer struggling, a little bit of older tires. There's the 53 getting out of the way. That's a teammate of Schaefer's, remember, so he's not exactly going to try to hold him up. Roth may have to try and set this up here in this corner by trying to swing up high and try to cruise it down low. We could end up side by side to turn 1.
That truck's going to have to get real wide for Eric Schaefer. Justin Roth steps out, makes the move inside. This is going to be the pass for the lead, potentially. Stephen Maggio waiting in the wings. They lean on each other a little bit at the apex. Side by side again. Schaefer jumps out of the throttle. Justin Roth sticks it on the bottom. Schaefer's going to have one more chance to hang on this quarter panel to turn 3.
He just won't have the grip, though. He tries his best. Maggio maybe peeks to the middle. Schaefer on the outside, though, finds a little bit of grip. He gets into the wall hard, and he's going to spin. Maggio makes contact with him. Eric Schaefer spins on the front straightaway, backs it into the wall. The caution flag does not wave, and oh boy, what a tough ending for Eric Schaefer, who was competing for that race win, but just didn't have enough, as you see him trying to get the truck back going after contact with Maggio, and Maggio's truck may have some damage on it as well. Ah, what a tough break for that Ford truck. He ran a great race and just trying to push as hard as he can into trying to keep the battle for the lead going. Just makes contact with the outside wall, and it doesn't look like Maggio had anywhere else to go, and it just made contact.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaker for Eric Schaefer for sure. He just pops the outside wall, and then there's just a truck to his inside, and once you get a little bit of a hook going there, it's going to go all the way to the inside wall. I mean, nearly 100 laps led tonight for Eric Schaefer coming off the back of a suspension. It really was a statement kind of race, and this watches the time bleed away from him on that last run. Then to add some insult, or I guess to add some injury, he gets spun around, and then that insult to that injury, no caution, he just falls all the way down the running order. He's outside the top 10.
Oh, and there's contact between Duncan Fall and Brandon Banks. Fall will slam the wall in front of Michael Newbraw. He hangs onto the truck. It's been a tough ending in this run for the driver of the 16, who's been battling with Banks and Juergensmeyer. All behind Mikey New, who's cruised up to 4th. A great recovery for this 8 truck in the closing laps of this race. A top 5 effort could be all he needs in these closing 6 or so laps to come away with decent points, as Maggio trying to close the gap, but it might be too little too late after the time lost with the contact. Approaching 5 to go, Nate.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult for Steven Maggio to mount a whole lot of a run here, especially because Justin Rott and he have been really running the same pace much of this, and much of this tire run, and you have to sit and wonder here. Ethan Fonseca Moreno won the race off pit road with Rott and Maggio, had to drop to save fuel presumably, and that's another what if that goes into this season full of what ifs for Ethan Fonseca Moreno.
And in the few starts he has made, it's also been a couple of what ifs for Steven Maggio. He's closing the gap up on Rott, but you just can't help but think that with these 4 laps remaining, the gap just might be too big to overcome. But I'll tell you what, Rott has been struggling. Maybe used a bit of tire as he pops the wall a little bit off of turn 2. It's not exactly been clean laps, but they're decent enough for now. As long as he doesn't make a major mistake, it's going to be tough for Maggio to get by, as I believe there's a lap truck in front of him. That's Gabe Pizzola once again. Gets by him cleanly. And you see Rott trying to play this nice and easy. Gap is 1 second with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, it is nice and easy for Justin Rott. He just has to wheel it around the place. Maggio can take 0.3 of a second out each lap, and he still won't even get all the way to his bumper entering turn number 3 the last time. So it's just got to be a matter of running nice and smooth if you're Justin Rott. Don't make any big mistakes. Don't let Steve Maggio take any chunks of time out. He can whittle away at it because there's just not that much time left in the race.
2 laps to go, and the gap is inside 1 second, about 8.5 tenths. And the gap just might be too much for the driver of the 51 to overcome. What a run it's been for Justin Rott. Was one of the fastest on the long run, but only after the sun set. Was struggling for pace while the sun was out. Eric Schaefer dominated for most of the night. We had the green flag pit stops. We had the different strategies play out. And off of turn 4, the white flag is out. 1 lap to go for Darlington. The gap is 1 second between your top 2. And for Justin Rott, it's been a great season. Entered the night 2nd in points to Duncan Fall, who currently runs down in the 7th place spot. But what a job it's been for the driver of the 76 all night long to play the strategy right. And he's going to be the first repeat winner in the KBRN Truck Series. Justin Rott, the winner from Darlington.
What a job at saving the tires and stay disciplined from Justin Rott on that last run. Played it perfectly. I guess the congratulations from Steven Maggio. How about that? It took till race 9 to get a 2-time winner this season.
Not the 9 for 9 that some may have thought, possibly going into the evening. But for Justin Rott, It's a race win nonetheless, as he'll get sent into the inside wall by Gabe Cazola, and that might have blown up his engine. And I think so. So no burnout here, unfortunately, for Justin Rott, as the engine went kaboom there on the front straightaway. But nonetheless, he'll enter victory lane here from Darlington. He'll have to tow it there. What a job by Justin Rott to become the first repeat winner on the season here at the track too tough to tame. As we'll get ready to give you our unofficial results here from the Darlington Raceway from Darlington, South Carolina, where, of course, as we just said, our race winner, Justin Rott here in the number 76 machine, was able to rally late there to capture the win. Steven Maggio ended up 1 second short. The contact with Schaefer definitely cost him a bit of time. We might have been able to see a great battle unfold if they got through there all good, but unfortunately, just some contact racing for the top spot inside 10 laps to go. Finishes second. Ethan Fonseca Moreno recovers to third. Probably had to save some fuel at the end. We'll definitely get around to asking him that. Mikey Neal with a great recovery after that restart troubles on the last restart with over 70 laps to go. Dropped all the way outside the top 15. Recovers to fourth there at the end. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, another consistent top 5 effort, will finish in fifth with Michael Newbrawl in the sixth truck grabbing a sixth place. What an effort from Michael Newbrawl here tonight. Craig Lounslugger outlasts the field to finish in seventh. Duncan Fall drops down to eighth in the final running. Nicholas Bauman captures a ninth place effort, and Eric Schaefer, who led nearly 100 laps here on the evening, will unfortunately finish in 10th. Not the result that the Ford truck was hoping for here, Nate.
Absolutely, it wasn't. Same deal for Michael Walls. He fought for the lead a lot of this race. He finishes 24 seconds back in 11th. Then it's Christopher Bishop a lap down. Chris Progar also a lap down in 13th. Then 2 laps down, Trevor Haley. 3 laps down, Alexander Schumacher. Brandon Banks ends 4 laps down. Gabe Cazola 5 laps down in a truck that was wounded all night. Craig Parks 6 laps down. AJ Green, another one of those guys that was fighting up front, finishes in 19th, 52 laps back, as does Kyle Benson, way in the back.
Keelan Belsha will finish 103 down, took the green flag, didn't really run that many laps here, and the number 18 machine will finish 21st, and his teammate JJ Hill will round out our 22 truck field here from the track too tough to tame. Well, we're getting an opportunity to talk with our race winner. Grabbed his first win of the season at Las Vegas, where there was no show, but this time, Justin, there is a show, and we're going to talk to you from Victory Lane. Talk us through what it was like running those laps there late, trying to run down Eric Schaefer. What was going through your mind as you were trying to battle for the win here at the track too tough to tame?
Um, yeah, I mean, I knew pit laps later I would have a lot fresher tires and a lot more speed. And it was kind of just up to how I saved my tires on that run without really any reference cars. Um, but the run was short enough that it didn't matter too much how it went, really. But it worked out pretty well, obviously. He was a lot slower than I imagined. I thought I'd get there a little later and have a little more of a fight, but um, yeah, I mean, the contact with him and me and Steven out of four. It sucks that he got spun out of it, and Steven didn't really have a good shot at the win after that. So, um, either way, a lot of it was really lucky. I sped on pit road under the first yellow, and after that, just passed a couple cars on that run, and then got some on pit road, and everyone in front of me kind of just like Ethan and Micah wrecked, and then Ethan got damage entering pit road with me, which I don't really know what to even. I didn't look back at it yet. I don't think it was really on either of us. I think it just comes together really close. So that gave him really bad damage and screwed him, which sucks. But other than that, yeah, just a really good day. And the only thing I was really doing was um, playing moving chicane with a lapped car all race.
Yeah, we saw traffic play a huge role all night long, Justin. But for you, this is a big win. You got the win earlier in the season at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We come here to a completely different intermediate type of racetrack at Darlington to mark your second win of the regular season now as we move to Autocliff for the regular season finale. So, what does it mean to be the first driver to capture multiple wins on the schedule? How do you feel about that? But also, how do you look forward to the playoffs now? Now that you have multiple wins on your belt, do you feel like you might be one of the top favorites going into these playoffs?
For sure. I'll have to look at the schedule, see how the tracks line up for me. but really glad to really get these points for Duncan and Micah and Jurg for the regular season. I kind of lucked out with a lot of those guys just having issues. Um, yeah, just having a really good run, really good points day is great. I've kind of been playing catch up since Daytona, since I finished pretty much last there. So, um, yeah, to be the first one with 2 wins is pretty cool, and it's been pretty cool having nobody have multiple wins up to this point in the season. It's been really competitive and fun all season long. So, um, definitely not a track I thought I'd get it done at all, and by the time I realized I had a really good shot at it, it just kind of hit me in the face, and there it was. But yeah, good day, and happy to be the first one with 2 wins. Happy to win at Darlington.
Yeah, sometimes they just happen to present themselves when you least expect it. Justin, congratulations on the win. But before we let you go, anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps makes this happen for you and this 76 team?
Yeah, shout out Steven and Ethan, of course, on the podiums. Had a lot of fun racing all night long with a couple of them. They both wrecked on the first lap, and like we all had to charge through the field together. We started a couple cautions ago, all like literally lined up last, and last. So fun to drive through the field with them. Jared got a top 5. Duncan, this throwback is a throwback to him. His first ever win for my team back in late 2023. So we put this scheme together, which was fun. So shout out him, Micah, and everyone back in the call, Buick, Jared, Christian, all them. Yeah, and shout out to you guys up in the booth.
It was a fantastic looking paint scheme for both of you, Justin and Duncan, and it was a winning paint scheme for you tonight from the Darlington Raceway. Congratulations on your second win of season 1 of the KBRN Truck Series, Justin. We hope to see you out at Auto Club next week for the regular season finale.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's Justin Rott, race winner here from Darlington Raceway, Nate, and he is very ecstatic to become the first repeat winner. But in that we did have someone who comes up short just by one spot, and it is Steven Maggio, and you're caught up with him, Nate.
Steven, congratulations on a P2 finish here and a great run. And really after that incident on the opening start of the race, you were able to work yourself back to the field slowly but surely. What allowed you to get through traffic better than everyone else?
I don't know. I think I just ran a tire saving line a little bit more conservatively at the beginning of the runs than everyone else did. That was pretty much about it. I mean, some guys let you go, some guys, will make a mistake in front of you and then you try to capitalize on that. But yeah, I don't really know. I just try to run a conservative line here.
And then speaking of tire saving, you and Justin Rott made a lot of headway there on that final run. Were you working off of him at all, or was that just you guys are both running the same line because that's the optimal way around the racetrack?
I wasn't really driving anything based off of him. We ran similar lines, although I think I was backing up a little bit more on the entry. Um, but he would run a little bit higher in 3 and 4 than I would, and yeah, we both just saved really good, I guess, and then Micah and Ethan had their issues, and then I guess Ethan and Justin had issues on pit road entry. I don't know if that gave Ethan damage, but he fell really far back, and we both caught Schaefer there, and not really sure what happened. I guess I came up a little bit, but I also felt like Schaefer got in the wall before I even hit him, so I think it just kind of tightened up there, and it sucked because first I thought I wasn't really going to have anything for Justin if he got clear to the lead, and I got to second, because we saved tires like almost dead even on that first run. But I mean, I fell back to like 2.5 seconds back, and I ran him down to less than a second. So I guess I did have better tires. I wish I could have fought him for the win there, but yeah, good win to him. We both, like you said, we both came from the back there, so that was pretty fun driving through the field together. And I'll take second to him.
Yeah, and with that incident, at least from what we saw in the booth and on the replays, it looked like it was 3 cars going for 3 trucks going for a spot big enough for maybe a truck and a half. So, is there anything that you think you really could have done differently? If you knew something like that was going to get so tight off of turn 4, is it really just wrong place, wrong time?
I guess I wish I exited just a tiny bit lower, but I mean, I was trying to like have a big enough run as I could so I could have the advantage going into one, and if I drove it in hard enough, I would clear him, because if you go in and you don't clear him into one, then you're in a bad spot, because then you're side by side, you're both slowing each other down, and if then you get to the exit and you never know what's gonna happen. Someone could hit the wall and come down, or so I was just trying to be a little bit aggressive there. I guess I wish I gave a little bit more room. I don't know if I'm having issues with internet because I didn't feel like I even hit him on my screen when he wrecked, and I didn't feel like I hit Ethan either. Like I didn't feel it in my wheel or anything. So I don't know. Like I was really close to Ethan, so if it was naked, it was the tiniest bit naked. But I didn't feel it at all. You know, like it's weird. But I don't know. I guess I should have just given a tiny bit more room, and that's about it.
And then before we let you go off here, is there anyone that you'd like to shout out for this race tonight?
Yeah, shout out Justin on the win and you guys in the booth. Thank you for broadcasting and thank you for running the league and everything. And that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining us. Steven Maggio, congrats on the second place finish.
Thank you. God bless.
Steven Maggio, runner-up finisher from tonight's race at Darlington, was hoping to have a battle for the top spot, but unfortunately the late contact there didn't exactly help out his chances. Great interview there with him, Nate. And we'll move down to our final finisher on the podium, the 077 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno. And Ethan, we saw you have a fantastic entry onto the pit road. We thought that leap would really put you into a confirming position to win this race. Then all of a sudden we saw you drop back a couple of seconds from that battle of the lead. We never captured what exactly occurred to you there. So just kind of talk us through your race and what happened on those late pit stops that ultimately took you out of the contention for the eventual battle for the win.
Yeah, I got hit onto the entry pit road and got damage on my back bumper, and it took a lot of the performance away. So was just kind of struggling with the loose handling truck after that the entire run. So just couldn't keep up with those guys with that damage, and just set us back. But was luckily able to hold on the third there, and hold the guys behind me behind for a bit until the long run kicked in, and kind of was just on a island of my own for position, uh, just hoping for something to happen up there, which something did happen, and I benefit from it, and got up to third on luck there. But yeah, it's a nice finish. Hopefully to get away from that cut line area and get myself less of trouble from getting eliminated from the playoffs. So yeah, it's hoping for a win there, but it, it is what it is.
The speed has been there, and the efforts have definitely gotten some better results as the season's gone on, Ethan. And as we look at the points, you currently sit ninth, approximately 22 above the cut line. So not exactly a guaranteed spot into that next round, but certainly a commanding spot to get into the top 10 playoff qualifiers. So as long as you have a decent run at Auto Club, it should be looking okay. So as you process that information now with the points being done by Keelan, what are your goals going into that regular season finale next week from Southern California in terms of either going for the win or just trying to make sure you get into the playoffs?
Well, the goal is usually always to go for a win, no matter what week it is. But I don't know. Might have to play this one a little conservative and keep myself out of any chance of wrecking, because every week has kind of just been that way, where there's been a incident that kind of takes myself out of it early or late or whatever. It's comes at random times. So you're never safe wherever you're at, pretty much at any point in the race. So yeah, just gonna have to be conservative, and yeah, our shot was kind of this. I thought it was over from the first lap, honestly, this race, with fellow buddy over here taking me out, but um yeah, I would just kind of play it safe.
And before we let you go, Ethan, after this top three effort here from Darlington, anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps makes this happen for you and the 077 truck team?
Yeah, shout out to the sponsor, Telsel on board. Uh, you guys put on a good broadcast, and everybody who was in VC with me today. Uh, whether it'd be helping or just there for company or whatever, it's makes these races a bit more enjoyable. So and yeah.
Appreciate the time you take with us on our Monday nights. Ethan, congratulations on the podium effort. We hope to see you out at Auto Club to try and lock up that playoff spot.
Yeah.
That's Ethan Fonseca Moreno, third place finisher you heard tonight from the Darlington Raceway, Nate, and he is looking to try and guarantee that points position. The ninth place spot as the final point spot is very tight. We'll try to get that graphic up on the screen for you here in a moment's time, as Keelan Belsha did get an update on the standings. So we don't have a proper graphic like we did at the start of the race. So this is the rough look as to what we have here, the best we can show you of these updated points so you can see them for yourself. But you can see it right there. Everybody within the top 4 or 5, guaranteed, no matter what. They are mathematically locked in. I would say from about the 5th through the 8th or so spot, it would take a large field for them not to be guaranteed just by starting the race. Ethan might be okay even with a large field as long as he doesn't have a truly disastrous of an auto club race. And then that battle for the cut line is really going to come down to those 3 or 4 drivers right around that cut line battle of AJ Green, Mikey Neal, and the pair of Craigs down there in the 12th and 13th spot. Gabe Cazola will need a miracle run to get into the postseason based on where his points position is. Tonight was not the run the 95 truck needed. That's really going to hurt his chances. It'll really take a long shot for him to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it really will. It would take a win, probably, as well as a pretty large field at Auto Club Speedway. I really do think, just based on the math of it all, it's going to come down to AJ Green and Mikey Neal. Craig Parks with an outside shot at it, of course, but with the field sizes that we've been getting the last couple of weeks, I really do think we're going to see AJ Green and Mikey Neal fighting within the top 5 for that final spot.
And if you look at the greater extent of the points, those two are by far the tightest battle we'll be having to talk about at the Auto Club Raceway. 2 points. Those are 2 positions out on the racetrack. It doesn't matter how many people show up when you talk about 2 points out on the racetrack. So those are 2 trucks we're going to keep our eye out in the closing laps of Auto Club, ensuring where they are on the racetrack and who could be in and who could be out when it comes to those 2. And look at the top of the standings for that matter as well. The win by Justin Rott tonight gives him that points lead by a mere 4 points over his teammate in Duncan Fall. So it's really tight stuff at the top of the point standings, and one of those 2 most likely could come away with that title at the end of next week's race. So a lot of things to talk about as we already are talking about our regular season finale from Southern California this time next week, and I'm really excited to get there. But just to kind of wrap our heads here from the Darlington Raceway, Nate, a great run by Eric Schaefer unfortunately did not result in the win he was hoping for after the suspension. A great comeback by him to put on a good show, a clean performance, which I'm sure is something he really was looking forward to. But it is going to be Justin Rott, our first repeat winner of the season.
Yeah, what a race from Eric Schaefer, and really, I don't even know if you can call it a mistake what happened with him. I think that he was trying to defend, and at this point of the season, he's not fighting for points. It's winning or it's nothing. So I don't fault him whatsoever for defending as hard as he did. And I was, like I told Stephen Maggio in our interview, that was 3 trucks fighting over a truck and a half's worth of room right there on the racetrack. And that's what tends to happen at the end of these things with everything on the line, because it's more than just a checkered flag at the end of the day for a lot of these guys.
It could mean a lot, these races, not just the race wins, but where they are running at the checkered flags. And it is going to be an intense, action-packed weekend next time out from the Auto Club Speedway. But that's not the only time we'll be at the Auto Club Speedway this week. You be sure to join us on Wednesday night for the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from the Auto Club Raceway. It won't be Kenneth Bueno on the call there. It'll be myself and Keelan Bush, and maybe, you just might maybe, get us a hear of Nate Polite. I'm not sure if you'll be interested in joining us with us. We'll work out the details on our booth for that race, but be sure to join us Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern from the Auto Club Raceway for the 4YTJ's Team Series from that racetrack. And be sure to join us on Thursday night for the SAC Cup Series action. I believe, you could correct me on this, Nate, I believe from the Bristol Motor Speedway.
I do believe so.
So it'll be here from the Bristol Motor Speedway. Once again, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. To be sure to catch Kenneth Bueno and Nate Polite on that call. That's going to be some great Tennessee short track racing on the KBueno Racing Network. Before we wrap things up and get back here next Monday night for the Auto Club Speedway, where we'll be deciding who our 10 playoff drivers are, who our regular season champion is, and all that to deal with. So before we sign off here from the Darlington Raceway, Nate, anything you want to say before we head off for the evening?
It's going to be a real fun battle in 1 week's time for the regular season championship and for that last spot in the playoffs. It is going to be an absolute blast. I cannot wait to watch it. Auto Club Speedway, I'm so glad that it lives on in the sim because it did not meet the fate that it deserved in the real world. That's for sure. It's one of the best tracks that NASCAR has gone to this century. I'm so glad that we still get to see these cars take it on in the virtual world.
It is a shame that it no longer resides with us for some real life action over in the NASCAR Cup Series and all its other series that used to run on that racetrack, but we do get continue to have it here on the sim and we can continue to race on it, and we'll be having a lot of fun from South California next week. From everybody here on the KBueno Racing Network that helps make this possible for the series, from all the admin crew, from Kenneth Bueno, who wasn't here with us tonight. He's over in North Carolina, who is calling the Cars Tour Series race on Saturday night, and he is going to be calling tomorrow night's eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Championship event from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Be sure to check that out and give him all the love and support from the Hall of Fame, and hopefully call a championship race to the utmost caliber, and we hope to see him back on here soon. From everybody, Keelan Belsha, JJ Hill, Eli Comerford, to Charlie Byer, everybody that helps make this happen, both on the league side of things to the KBueno Racing Network side of things. From Nate Polite with me in the booth, I am Francisco Baccaño saying so long and have a good night. Congratulations to Justin Rott on becoming the first repeat winner of this season. Be sure to join us for our events later on this week, and we'll move on to Auto Club to see who our playoff 10 are.